June through November 19th, 2021. And based on what our auditor told us, there's a precedent that passed legal muster a year or so ago that when the park secretary filled in for several months before the park superintendent was chosen and hired, they compensated her the difference between her salary and what the superintendent's salary. So this $5,142.48 is the difference between the zoning administrator's salary from June 1st to November 19th, I believe 18th or 19th, and her normal salary. So we were told that that is appropriate through past precedent and through the State Board of Accounts. So, and that was reiterated today, a meeting about an hour and a half ago, that was the desire of the Planning Commission to give her that bonus. So I would move that we approve this.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And I do not see Steve in attendance. Steve, are you online? Do you see Steve? Okay. Steve wanted to address the council tonight regarding setting up a fund for the Bellflower solar project.
Does this relate, Joel, to the ordinance that you shared with us earlier this week? So it parallels what Steve's going to talk about. Okay.
Hello, Steve.
Did he?
Did we lose him?
Hey, Ruth, is Steve still on the phone?
He's off now. He just walked back in and sat down.
Okay.
He can hear you now.
Hello, Steve.
I don't know. She was just wanting to know if we could hear.
Okay, Steve, they're ready for you to address the council.
Okay. Is Joel there, Harvey? I'm here. Okay, you want to discuss that ordinance on that thing?
Oh, sure. As you know, Bellflower Solar is planning to develop a solar project in the county, and as part of that, in early October, the county entered into a road use agreement. As part of that, Bellflower has agreed to contribute the sum of $185,000 to be used for drainage improvements on the McFarland Drain and the McFarland Ditch. Approximately $48,000 to be used for an outside engineering firm to do an evaluation of the condition of county roads and drains that might be impacted by the project. And then the agreement requires that Bellflower pay to the county the sum of $50,000 that's held by the county in case any emergency road repairs are needed to be done, and Bellflower cannot effectuate those repairs after being provided notice and an opportunity to do it. So what we would need would be an additional fund to hold those revenues and utilize those revenues as provided by the road use agreement. I've prepared an ordinance that I've sent to you that I think covers that. And so once you approve it, then you can have at least the fund set up then on the county's records.
And then Steve's 185 set aside for drainage, county drains, wastewater removal.
Correct, yeah, it's a specific drain project that will need to be improved as a result of the improvements that Bellflower is constructing. And Steve, has that project begun?
I've got the tile laying on the ground, yes.
Okay.
So are these three different dollar amounts, the $48,000 for the engineering firm, the $185,000 for drains, and then the $50,000 emergency fund? Those are three separate
amounts.
Three separate
Yep.
amounts. So the $48,000 is just going to pass through.
Correct.
The $50,000 will be held, and the $185,000 will be held. Is that right?
Well, it'll ultimately be paid to vendors that do the work. And
Right. Okay.
that supplied the drain pipe.
Okay.
So these are all funds that are in the auditor's office, the pass-through.
It'll be administered by the audit, just like any other county fund.
Does anyone have any questions for Joel about the ordinance?
None of this money is coming from our budget, correct? This is all
Correct.
from Bellflower.
It's all directly from Bellflower.
So, Steve, were you just helping to facilitate this conversation, or did you have any other information you wanted to provide for us before we vote on this ordinance?
No, I can't really hear you real well.
I'm sorry. Steve, were you just facilitating the conversation about the ordinance, or did you have any other information you wanted to give us before we vote on the ordinance?
No, just need to get that completed because Bellflower wanted to get it on their books this year.
Okay.
That's why it was so important.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item on
Thank
our
you.
itinerary. Oh, I'm sorry, Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, if Joe got anything, I don't know if he does or not.
Maybe, did you have anything else?
No,
you
I don't
wanted
have
to add?
anything else. I think we've covered it.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Steve. And the next item on our itinerary was to address this ordinance. So do we have a motion to approve the ordinance?
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance just discussed.
We have a motion and a second to pass ordinance number 2021-12-16-007. Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Were you able to hear Clay's? Clay, did you vote in favor? Okay. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And thank you, Steve.
Yep.
Next on our itinerary is a series of transfers from the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff is requesting to transfer $3,071 from vehicle maintenance to gas, oil, and lube, requesting to transfer $5,600 from jail officers to inmate housing, $1,000 from longevity to inmate housing, $8,500 from overtime to inmate housing, $1,000 from part-time jail to inmate housing, $11,100 from utilities to inmate housing, $3,071 from vehicle maintenance to gas, oil, and lube, $1,462 from medical to uniforms.
May I ask a question? Sheriff, I assume the inmate housing is the housing of inmates in other counties. Do you know approximately how many we still have in other counties? 40. And when's the opening date to the new correctional facility? Okay.
I have a second question. On the vehicle maintenance to gas, oil, and lube, was that two of them, or is it just so it's two transfers of the same amount to that line? Okay. Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure, if it was an accidental repeat or something. So I'll make a motion, we approve these transfers as presented.
A motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The next transfer is from the, sorry.
Yes.
You said aye, okay. Sorry, from here it said, it sounded like
You did, yeah. Okay.
there's a, Clay, is there a little bit of a delay for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay. The next transfer is from the Commissioners, requesting $7,300 from telephone to computer equipment and program. Is there a motion to approve this transfer?
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next on our itinerary is to approve the Sheriff's Department to use commissary money for items that are not in the general fund. And this is something that is done every year. The commissary fund is used by the sheriff to pay for items not in the general fund budget, such as legal fees, timekeeping, office supplies, medical, and insurance costs related to law enforcement and detention, or any other allowable expenditure of the Sheriff's Department. This letter is to approve those expenses to be paid from the equipment fund.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the itinerary are board appointments, and we receive requests for 3 board appointments. Jean Clark to the Alcohol and Tobacco Board, Donna Tauber to the Henry County Tourism Board of Directors, and Phyllis Rolland to the Spiceland Library Board. And as we've done before, we would like to advertise before making these appointments in case there are other interested individuals. Is there still consensus on the council that we would advertise for these board appointments before voting?
I think we should stay standard in this. This is what we said before, that we should advertise these to everyone, so everyone has an opportunity to apply if interested. So I will make a motion to table these appointments until our next meeting and advertise these appointments as the normal procedure.
Okay. So Debbie, if you're able to advertise before Christmas, that'll give us 2 weeks before our next, plenty of time before our next one. Thank you.
I would second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So is there further discussion? All those in favor of tabling these board appointments until they're advertised and voting at our January meetings signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And motion carries. Next on our itinerary is the retirement of Linda Rutherford. This letter is to inform you that Linda Rutherford is retiring after 26 years of service to Henry County. So we want to thank Linda for her service, and we'll be voting on paying out her sick hours, 560 hours at $20.09 an hour for a total of $11,250.40. Would there be a motion to approve the payout of the sick time?
I would make a motion and likewise thank her for 26 years of service to the county.
I'll second that motion and with gratitude.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Opposed? And motion carries.
Madam President, I just want to interject. Just to explain the rigmarole that Bobby and I have been going through for the benefit of the audience. My mic isn't working, so that's why we're moving around. I just want to communicate that to anybody watching.
Thank you, Betsy. We need to accept the information sent by the Lockmuller Group regarding the intersection improvement at 109 and 70. And this is information about, road improvements that we don't control, but they are just sent to us for our information. Is there a motion to accept this as we've received?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And likewise, we've also received information from NDOT regarding a bridge project on State Road 109 over Montgomery Creek, and need to just accept that we have received this information.
I'd make a motion, we approve NDOT's information.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor? Was there a question online? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, and motion carries. We receive ordinance number 2021-12-16-008 drafted for the EMS, and they are passing a salary ordinance for bonus salaries. And in short, each person employed in the EMS department as an EMT will receive a one-time lump sum payment of $700, and each person employed in the EMS department as an emergency medical responder shall receive a one-time lump sum payment of $500. And that these are ARP monies. Is that? Would you like to address us? Thank you. Welcome.
Yes, these are ARP money. These are rural funds. We applied for Phase 4 of ARP. They announced rural first because they wanted to get that to the community first. We don't know about Phase 4 yet, so I don't think that gets announced till January. But we did apply, and we did receive a little over $55,000. When we applied for it, the first thing that I talked to Lucas about was that the only way that we can't do the hourly hazard pay because we couldn't sustain it, I don't think, or at least not knowing where we're at. So the best way to give them any kind of hazard pay, I did a little research. There's several across the country that did it that way. This money can be used for, it's vastly different from the first CARES Act or any of that money. A lot of it's for reimbursement, hazard pay, bonuses, PPE, all of those things that you bought prior. And a lot of it's lost revenue, which based on where we were in 2019 to today is great because we went ALS to BLS. And so that's probably where the majority of that came from. And we would just like to, we've had a team stick with us all year through everything that has gone on. I think we've only lost one for sure and one that's been kind of in and out, and that's huge. That is huge. I mean, I know the raise definitely helped, but that was to bring them up to a livable wage for us to be competitive and maintain them. And I think the whole, service deserves this. And this will probably be the only time that we can offer, and it's because we got this money. So that's kind of where we're at.
I guess the only other thing I would add, this is, while it is part of the American Rescue Plan, it is a different, program or funding stream than what the county received in general that has many more restrictions. This is a funding source that was made available to healthcare providers that receive Medicare, Medicaid, or CHIP, and that provided care or treatment for COVID and are what meet the definition of rural provider or supplier. And this doesn't take away our... It doesn't. It's completely in addition to that, and it's much less restricted than what the funds that were given to the county were.
Are you maximizing the amount you can get from that? Are we getting as much as we possibly can?
As they base it off of how much Medicare, Medicaid, and CHIP that you provide, they take that against your losses from 2019, 20, and 21. It was a lot of stuff to submit. And then base off any previous payments you got, which prior to me coming into control here, they had only applied for one thing. It was a lower amount than this even, so that really didn't even hurt us. I think the big amount where it's the big rural provider, that doesn't get announced until January, into December, January. But this doesn't take away. This was solely something that only EMS providers or like nursing homes or something that had direct care that also billed Medicaid could apply for. It was separate from everything. So yeah.
You're taking advantage of
Anything and everything I can find. So.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So, I have- sorry.
There is one more question. I'm sorry, Chad.
So I'm reading the ordinance, it appears you guys got $55,000. And then is all of that going to the salary?
No,
Okay. that's what
it's
I
about
was-
a fifth of it.
Okay.
I would love to give it all to the employees. I would love that. But that, it doesn't make sense for us right now when we don't know where we're at. And there's such a wide range that we can spend that on, and this may be all we get. So we would like to get training materials and some updates to the ambulances. And so we wanted to do something, but it didn't make sense to use all of it. But I would love to. If I thought I was getting more, maybe we would have thought of that. But that just didn't make sense for us right now.
Okay, thank you.
So you've applied for another round coming up that you've not heard
When you
about
apply
yet.
for Phase 4, you had two options. You could just apply for Phase 4, or if you qualified what they considered as rural, then you could also check that you wanted to go ahead and be considered for rural. Well, they announced rural first. We did qualify for that. They're still sorting out that top tier. So it was a little subsection of the actual what we applied for, and we hope we get something from the Phase 4. I don't know, so.
Well, I also commend you for going after the grant monies. It's great to hear. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve this ordinance?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pass ordinance number 2021-12-16-008. Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chad, you have a job classification update for us today.
Yes, I have a brief update from the health department. And, Angela had brought this to us previously. Okay. She's pointing at me, so I guess I'm going to do this, which is fine. So I will start out by saying we were unable to hold our job classification committee meeting because unfortunately we did not have a quorum. But we did talk to Angela and gather some additional information, and she provided job descriptions as well as some math which everyone should have in front of them. So I'll run through the highlights on the math. Angela has been awarded a grant for the next 2 years of $220,000 per year. In addition to that, she's receiving about $140,000 estimated in inoculations and vaccines that she is currently doing through reimbursement. So at this point, what she is asking for on these two positions is that these were positions that were in her budget in years past, and due to financial constraints, they were taken out, and now she's asking that they be put back in. These two positions add up to a salary of $98,429.72. The additional funds that she receives is well over $360,000 per year, and beyond that, she also had a carryover this year of right at $135,000, and she estimates adding to that slightly this year as well. So she would like to advertise these positions and add these positions, but she is making the applicants aware that this is a temporary position based on grant funding. So she's going into this with funding it from this grant and her additional receivables through the inoculations that she's doing. I think this is a phenomenal idea. I mean, we're certainly still in the middle of this mess that we're in, and their services have been invaluable to everyone in this county, including the county. And so again, we could not take a vote, but I can only speak for me personally now. I strongly support this, and I will strongly support it so much I'll make it in the form of a motion that we improve adding these two positions back in contingent on the funds through the grant.
I'll second that, and Chad always does a good job for relaying what happens in job classification. We didn't have quorum, but of the 3 voting members who were in attendance, all were relayed enthusiasm and support for that, including myself. So,
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion or questions for Chad or Angela? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. I can't hear.
Clay, did you say aye?
Yeah, I'm on aye. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Oppose? Oh. Go ahead, Clay.
No, good.
Okay. Opposed? And motion carries.
So I would just add quickly that we have advertised multiple times for everyone in the audience and everyone out there we are in need of 2 employee representatives on the committee, as well as 2 citizen appointees on the committee that are unfilled at this point. So if anyone is interested at all, please contact me. I don't know if we're not getting an email. I've asked several. It's gone out to Jeff sent it out the last time, so it's gone out. Okay, well, we'll have to check with Jeff then, because it's been sent to the employees at least 6 or 7 times. Because we've been looking, and I've mentioned it in this meeting, I have directly talked to multiple department heads to ask them and implored them to see if anyone in their department is, I think I've talked to every single department head, actually, in the county. So, I mean, I'm shocked it's not gone out, but yeah, we've been doing this. We haven't had since June, I think, we've been open. So I'll send a test email myself next week and see if it goes out to all employees. Yes, sir. So this board makes recommendations to the county and the council on the job descriptions and the salaries of the employees of the county. So we work with Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy, a consultant that advises us, as well as the HR director for the county that will advise on the job descriptions and to ensure that they're classed properly and that the wages fall in the proper range.
And normally the council would accept the input from job classification and then vote to approve that or not, rather than moving forward without that recommendation. So.
It's a way to streamline decision-making, just make it a little more efficient than us handling it all during council meetings.
Yeah,
and for the employees to represent as well.
Yeah, this is a committee that was put in place by the county, gosh, Joel, was it 86, the original? I think the original formation was in 1986, so it's been in place for quite some time.
How many members, if you were fully?
So we have 3 council members, which is myself, Councilwoman Mills, and Councilman Morgan, Commissioner Ed Tarantino, then 3 employees and 2 citizens. The citizens are a non-voting member of the committee, but there are 7 voting members of the committee that made up of 4 elected officials and 3 county employees. There's only 1 employee on there currently, and his term is up come January, and I have not gotten confirmation if he will continue on there.
Thank you. Chad, is there anything else from job classification?
Nope, that's all.
Okay. Before we move forward with the insurance update, I wanted to bring an issue that Linda Winchester brought to my attention. And if you guys think back to budget session, we had a discussion about Linda's 2, I'll summarize, and if I mess it up, you can correct me. Okay. My recollection is Linda has 2 part-time employees that she's paying out of her perpetuation fund. We had quite a lengthy discussion during budget session about the benefits for those 2 employees and where they should be paid from. And my recollection then was that we said that Linda would ask if she could use her perpetuation fund for 2021 benefits, and if she was denied that by the state, that we would cover it, and then we would start in 2022 having her benefits taken from the perpetuation fund. That was my recollection. I just spoke with Linda today, and she said that she was denied by the state for 2021 to be taken from the perpetuation fund, and also now is bringing to our attention that she does not have the funds in her perpetuation fund to pay the benefits for 2022. Is that close enough? Okay, that we can discuss now. So I wanted to open the floor for discussion. If we will, bless this request for the benefits not to be taken from the perpetuation fund, or how we will handle this.
Has there been any discussion as to where it appropriately might come from? What fund or?
So would it have to be absorbed by the commissioner's budget? Is that a line item in the commissioner's budget? I'm not saying that you would have to do that. I'm just saying theoretically, if it's not.
So I guess I need some math because I'm a math guy. But, I mean, how much are we talking, how much is in your perpetuation fund? What's your average annual increase in that fund? And how many dollars are we talking about for the benefits that you're referring? Is this the benefits like the medical?
$2,500?
Is this the medical health type benefits, or is this the taxes and perf? And so you're talking taxes, Social Security, Medicare, federal and state taxes. So we're not actually referring to benefits. We're referring to withholding taxes.
So where does, just because it was asked if it would come out of our budget, where does everybody else's employees? No, I'm just.
It was just theoretical.
The commissioners.
No, I'm just asking a question because I'm like, I don't know where everybody else.
The commissioner's budget. The commissioner, except for those departments that have their own budgets, the highway department, the health department.
The commissioners did absorb that in the past because they had a part-time fund. Linda's employees were paid out of the commissioner's part-time fund and she reimbursed them. They didn't charge her for the taxes and stuff. We don't have a line item to take that money from. That's what I tried to explain. So we have to create a line, appropriate money in it because there's really no place for me to take those taxes from. Because, yeah, in the past it was taken from the commissioners, but they don't have part-time money anymore. You guys took that.
Yeah, but we take current part-time employees' monies out of the SIC and the Medicare fund that's in the commissioner's budget. So where does the part-time?
It's out of their salary. That is the commissioner's Social Security Medicare line item under their budget is the county's portion.
Yeah,
What she's talking about is like well, I guess it is
it is the county's.
the county's portion too, yeah. But it's not budgeted for that, so yeah, I guess it can come out of that. It was always before taken out of their part-time.
Yeah, so I guess I'm still back to the math. What are we talking about math? What's your current balance in your perpetuation fund? What's your average annual increase? Because I think if I remember this from our budget, this is a very minimal amount of money. We're talking a few $1,000s.
I've been trying, I've requested budgets, the totals, because I keep the totals that I take out. But I've been looking at it, trying to figure out how much it actually is. It was 10,000, I think. And it'll be more than that right now. But I had added together different things, but wasn't jiving, so I can't give you.
So you have part-time employees at 20 hours a week, 1450, 28.
I figured it on 28 hours, the salary, to come up to that 40 from last year. I had not taken it out of there before, so I just averaged that out and was going to get a total this year to know how much it would cost me to pay them out of the perpetuation fund.
So that's $42,224.
Right.
Social Security and Medicare.
That was high.
That's the high. That's your 28 hours, 52.
And the benefits have been taken out of there this year.
Okay.
And that's the question, because State Board of Accounts said it had to be put back, that it wasn't supposed to have been taken out.
Okay. So we're talking Social Security and Medicare taxes. Is that it?
It's the withholding.
Yeah, Social Security and Medicare, because there's no perf. So we're at 8.5% of that, roughly. So we're talking $3,500 and $3,600 is the amount of funds we're talking about for withholding taxes on that amount of salary. At 28 hours at $14.50 an hour times 52 weeks, you're looking at roughly $3,600 in withholding taxes. So
It's
again,
more than that.
Linda,
Must be something
I did the
else.
math. Let's do it again, just to make sure. 1450
Chad,
Hold on,
times
Chad, just a
28.
second, just a
Chad.
second.
I took what they were taking out and added that up. That came to 9,000, and that was just to the end of October.
So did we have it coming out of your fund all of 2021?
Yes.
And so you took out, you actually added up what they actually took out?
And then towards the end, it changed for the last month, and I've just found that today, so I haven't questioned that yet. But I have to base, you're talking numbers. The numbers are that I have a contract that they just came to me, and part of the film cannot be done the way they thought it could. It's another $20,000. So it's a $300,000 contract. That's just for U.S. imaging. I also, I need to buy another scanner. I need to still run my office. I pay for maintenance, supplies, postage, whatever the office needs comes out of that perpetuation fund. The hours, right now, the hours may increase on what I have to pay them. I lowered the amount because at the end of October, it was $31,915. Was the total of the salary plus what was withheld for two people. And during that time, I did not have but one part-time person. I had someone that left, and then I had hired another one. And then that one has just left, and then I've hired another person. So the hours may increase some next year, but it's hard to budget that, especially when, and I think there's around 500,000. I'm not sure the exact total that's in the fund now. Debbie, do you have that?
Debbie, do you know the balance in her perpetuation fund? Yeah.
Linda, is this for one part-time individual or more than one? Two.
At 28 hours.
Chad, can you
Now,
think of?
that's even less, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to, because he was doing the math, can you think of any reason why there would be that disparity?
I cannot. I think the auditor's office will have to look back, because here's the actual dollars math. I looked up the exact numbers that are the withholdings for Social Security and Medicare. So at $42,224, which is $1,450 times 28 times 52 times 2, is $42,224 in annual salary for the two part-time employees. Social Security withholdings is 6.2%. That's $2,617.89. The Medicare withholding is 1.45%. That's $612.25. For the actual total withholdings from the county's portion, this does not include the employees' portion that they pay out of their payroll, is $3,230.14. That's the total withholdings for the two federal taxes that the county has to pay. Sorry? 6.2 and 1.45. No, 6.2 and 1.45 on the Medicare. So it's roughly 7.65%.
I can give you what all they're holding out. It's listed here.
Okay, that could be helpful.
Social Security, Medicare, federal, Indiana state tax, Henry resident tax, and I believe that's it, right?
Okay, so the Henry tax, the federal tax, the state tax, and their portion of the FICA and the Medicare are all taken out of their check. That's not paid by the county. That's taken out.
But my fund only supports
But
so much.
that money, Linda, for the taxes is included in their payroll dollars, because that is taken out of their payroll. The only additional funds that are paid are the $3,230. So what you're seeing is the federal taxes that were withheld that actually came out of the employee's check. So part went to payroll, part went to, so yes, it could be off if you're looking at those, because those are not paid by the county. Those are paid by the employee through their payroll, just
You're
like all
saying their
of us.
paycheck would be reduced by those amounts?
Yes, ma'am. They're
It's
just like all of us.
It's listed here. That's where I got that.
But their payroll comes out of there too. Does it list their amount that they paid in their paycheck? Their net amount or their gross amount?
Report, what I came up to see was how I determine what I take out, that 7.65, is a separate report. So I get the, what's that called? Transaction history? The one that comes after we, so we get our monthly reports. A distribution report. Do you have one of those?
No.
If you look at that distribution report on the bottom right-hand corner, should be that number, and it should come up to that.
Yeah, so the monies that you're seeing from the state, federal, and local, those actually get paid out of the employee's check. It's since they're both being paid out of that account.
It's coming out of my fund, that's all I know.
But so is their payroll. So I guess the question is, we need to find out if their gross is coming out of your payroll or their net.
Well, the main question is can my fund pay for what I'm doing with scanning and things like that? And then I allow so much. What I have to do is figure out all my budgets, everything that's coming out, and will that fund support that? And it's going to be close next year. There's just no way around it. But I feel like the project is important enough that if I can pay the $14.50 an hour, and it's the way I've been doing this out of the Commissioner's Fund, and I know it's out of a different account, but it always has been. And that's not what I took on, because I did not include that in the total that I came up to make sure I had enough in that fund to cover everything.
So, Bobby, or maybe Kenan, can she be reimbursed for any of the scanning she's doing from the ARP funds? Because we're getting ready to scan all the other documents. No reimbursing? Okay. Okay. There's just a thought.
If we do it in the future, yes, but reimbursement, no.
So how about this additional $20,000 that she's saying is going to cost additionally, since it's not in her contract?
I want to look at the regulations, see if there's anything I can make fit. Off the top of my head, I have a real question.
Linda,
Because the project's already started. Okay.
That's the.
I had not shown it because it just came in. But and what I've been doing is I've pulled all of my film out and everything, making sure that those things are not in there, that they could scan from film that we have. What's happened is the film is deteriorated, and they did not know that, I guess. And that's what they're saying. Now, I have a credit, and if that credit stays, it might cover half of it. But these are all in the cloud. I mean, you just take it as it comes, and what are you going to do? If the film is deteriorated to where they cannot scan from the roll, because they had two parts to the contract. One was scanning the books and the plat records that are in the sleeves, things like that. I mean, it was all broken down. So you had that part, and then the second part was going from 64 to 1990. All of that is on film. The film that was there, they're saying that someone cut up the copy, or no, they cut the original and kept the copy, and that's why they're wanting to use the jacketed film, because what was put in the jackets was from the original, and you get a better resolution from that than you do from a copy of the film. You lose degradation a little bit when it goes from the original to a copy. That's why you always scan your original. You were supposed to save your original, but that did not happen. So it's something that came up. Hopefully, I can absorb part of it in the contract. But they're wanting me to sign another contract, and I'm holding off on that before I bring it to you to let you see it. I want to make sure what I have and what they're saying jives. I don't want to give them $20,000, but I have to account for it. I mean, you can't just blindly go into something and not know what your costs could be.
I have one. Okay, so first, the amount on the perpetuation is $436,000. That was a question that someone had asked. The question is, at a high level, should a department basically pay for their own withholding benefits from their own budget, I think at a high level. And so I can see a scenario where we say to you, you need to absorb these withholdings just like other departments do. If you need additional funds for this project, you could ask for an additional appropriation from the general fund, to help pay those costs. But I don't want to handle this differently than we do the other departments. I just wanted to throw that out and see what other council members thought of that way of thinking.
Linda, when you're talking about scanning, you're talking about scanning like microfilm or microfiche to digitize it. Is that the kind of scanning you're hiring contracting out?
And it's the books also. They have a new process. It's not new, but it's new to how it was done in the past. Because there was some scanning done in the past. But now they do it in color. They have a laser scanner, and you get so much, they can enhance it so much. And we have books they're also scanning the books, so it's paper. Some of it is laminated, it's in plastic. But all of this is to be digitized, and then it goes on to our server, which is another thing it's costing me. I just got a quote from Jeff, $3,000 for more mirror 2 drives so that one backs up the other, but I have to have a terabyte. I've got so much data, I have to have a 4 terabyte to have enough storage space to put it on my server. And what we can do is, instead of continually using those books, and every time you use those books, you can they degrade. So I can go online on my server, pull up the book and page, print it, and send it off. I can either email it. It's digital now. I can email it. I can send it to California when they request it. It's opening up so many avenues by having all my records digitized. If the pandemic gets worse and we have to shut down, we're not shut down. That computer's still running.
Susan?
Yes.
You asked about ARP. Now, the committee has already suggested putting back $1 million for digitizing county records. So I don't know if you're just ahead of the game or if that qualifies for that operation or not. Maybe Bobby can address that.
That's what Joel was going to look at, because there's some, and Joel's going to check it out, there's some stipulations of whether a project has already been started, whether funds could qualify for something that has already been started versus a new project.
Right.
And that's what he's going to look into.
Right, yeah. Stellar was the same way. It couldn't go towards anybody that, ground had already been broken, but it could go in the second phase. So you said you have an outstanding contract for possibly to sign for additional. I would hold off until Joel finds out that, because that might be able to be under ARP and that your financial issue is solved.
And so,
Obviously.
again,
I still have $300,000, almost a $300,000 contract.
Yeah.
So the $20,000 to me is, but if it can be covered, that's fine. I don't have a problem. But I've never been reimbursed from other COVID stuff, so I just figured, it's not going to happen.
I fully support the digitizing. I think that's a really good idea. I'm going to say again to see if which side people fall on. My thought is the department needs to absorb their withholding benefits. If Linda needs help funding this project, that could be an additional appropriation potentially, I don't know, but to try to handle all these expenses in the same way. Does anyone have any thoughts about that?
So I agree with your statement. I mean, I'm trying to get the numbers, Linda, but I still haven't gotten what you normally receive in increases per year in income in that account. But your current balance is $436. You have a $300,000, under $300,000. So that leaves you $136,000. I believe that fund receives a fairly healthy amount of money each year. It was more than enough to cover the salaries coming out of that. I can't remember the exact number from the budget, but I do remember it was well over that $42,000. And as Susan said, every single department, the health department, the highway department, the park department, all of the departments that we take funds out of their funds to pay for employment also pay all of those taxes. So I think we should keep it settled around. And again, at the end of the day, based on your 28 hours, 52 weeks, 2 people, at $1,450, it's $3,230. So it's not a very large number.
It was 10,000 last year.
But again, those funds came out of the employee's check, which is what we need.
No, they came out of my budget.
But so did the employee's payroll.
Yes.
So let's say they get paid $400 a week. They paid $100 a week in taxes. So your payroll would show the $300, and your taxes would show the $100. But it's still only a net $400. It's still only net that $42,224. It didn't actually pay. The county doesn't pay federal taxes. The county doesn't pay state taxes or local taxes. That's paid by the employee. So you can't, that's what we need to find out, and you need to work with the auditor, is if they took out the net or the gross. I'm assuming they took out their gross payroll, not their net, or their net payroll, and then took out the taxes separately, and then added up to their gross payroll amount, which would be that $42,224. So it looks like it's paying, but it reduced that $42,000 by that $7,000 in taxes that those employees paid, using this $42,000 and your $10,000 number. So it's not actually, it's not additional funds. Those weren't additional funds that you paid. It was part of their payroll.
Right, but it's funds that I never paid before, and funds that I did not know that I needed to take out.
You still didn't technically pay them now because it's their payroll.
It's still coming out of my fund. Whether it comes out of their payroll or not, it still came out, that amount that they made plus the additional came out of my fund.
I just want to clarify. So, Debbie, do you have part-time people? Do any other departments have part-time? You know, just because I'm saying we should do it the same way. What about
the sheriff?
Jenny has part-time people.
So the sheriff's in the general fund, so, okay.
Jenny pays a part-time person.
And how do we do theirs?
How about the prosecutors? The prosecutor pays theirs out of their perpetuation fund.
What about Jenny?
How-
And does she absorb the withholdings? And same for the sheriff's
Thank you so much.
department. So you feel like
So-
everyone does this way? Is basically what I'm asking you. Is that,
And just for informational sake, Bobby just handed me the receivables for 20 for her perpetuation fund were $149,573. And so far in 21, it's $168,882.95 in additional receivables to that perpetuation fund.
so I just keep coming back to me, essentially, it's an accounting standard. We always have department heads absorb the withholding benefits. We're not saying that we don't want you to do your project if you don't have the funds for it, but we want to do this the same way. But how do you guys feel about, I want to hear how everyone is feeling about, is this something that people have an opinion about how it should be done?
I'm a little confused because I thought Linda said that the State Board of Accounts said you could not take that out of the perpetuation fund.
They said it has to be on that certificate to be able to take it out.
Well, she sets up a certificate with the state saying, I'm going to spend money on X, Y, Z. And she did not put withholding benefits on 21. But she can put that on 22. She gets to do that.
So it's an error that it was not put on there for 21.
It was different than what had been done in the past, so she didn't have it on there. So during budget session, we said, okay, if we need to absorb the 21 because it wasn't on the sheet, we can pay this $3,000 from the general fund. But just moving forward, then she can add it to the certificate for the state.
Yeah, now, okay, I'm all for that. I mean, it has to be paid. It has to be reimbursed, correct?
Yeah. I just like to see it be done in the same manner. I think their salary, their pay wasn't coming from your budget before. It was coming from the commissioner's budget.
It came from my budget. I reimbursed.
You reimburse the commissioners,
Yes.
but you reimburse them
The 14.50.
the entire expense,
14.50,
right?
yeah.
Including their the taxes. Just
No,
not
in the previous, they were not. The way the commissioners had it set up, she was I think the only department that was using that part-time line item. If I'm not mistaken, I can check that.
that's
but
not
She
true.
reimbursed them the hourly
She
rate.
just
times
reimbursed them
number
the
of
hourly
hours.
wage and no additional taxes. So that was being paid out of the commissioner's budget,
Just the withholdings.
just the withholding.
That it would have included.
So she was basically just in reimbursing the $14.50 per hour.
You're saying now, though, that includes like the county tax and things because it reduces the,
It reduces the gross amount,
Right.
the net amount, the net that the employee gets is less because they pay their taxes out of that.
right.
So,
Betsy, do you have anything you want to say? It's really, we just have to make a choice, I think, but what do you think about it?
I think moving towards standardization.
I'm sorry. Kenan, did I interrupt you? Oh, she doesn't have a mic.
I'll just, come on, come over here.
You can come right here. Okay. Sorry.
Well, I feel fancy down here. I want to get Linda what she needs, but I also agree that we need to standardize things between all departments. It should be consistent, so I'm not quite sure how to achieve that. I'm seeing both sides there, so it seems like maybe we take care of what has happened in the past, and then moving forward, we move towards a more standardized process. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes sense.
I think a change was made without communication about the change of past practice versus what happened in 2021. So Linda not having that information that it was going to change from past practice didn't notify the State Board of Accounts or whatever paperwork that she had to do for her budget. And that change caused a shortage of what she was anticipating, planning for projects now and in the future. So maybe it was communication. I don't know, that maybe Joel, Debbie, you sit down and make sure that we're not violating something that the State Board of Accounts, and make sure whatever we do is legal, but I don't know if in an open meeting here we can settle this, because it was something, I do like the standardization. In 2022, we need to be standard and communicate what's going to happen this day forward.
I think, if someone wants to hire a part-time person, part of their budgeting process should include the withholdings for that individual. So I just like to set that expectation that, a department head would be able to afford the entire cost of the employee. For 2021, it seems that we need to absorb that because it wasn't included on the certificate. And that would give you the $3,000 back into your fund. And I don't know exactly how to resolve the $10,000 to $3,000 other than that. I do think that I understand completely what Chad is saying. And maybe if you sit down with Debbie and Chad, or Debbie or Chad, or, maybe together you guys would be able to each understand what the other is seeing. But it seems that if in the past you were paying for the employee's hourly rate, that the only additional should be the withholdings, and the rest of what you're seeing is what came out of the employee's paycheck. So that makes sense to me. Maybe we need a motion to refund the withholdings amount, whatever they actually, Debbie will be able to tell what they actually were. Is that right, Debbie?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Bobby is running a payroll report right now, but she
Okay.
did hand me a transaction report like Angela was talking about. And you can clearly see that the math does not add up. On January 15th, the payroll was $651.17. That doesn't mathematically add up. So what they're doing is they're paying the net to the employee and then the withholdings so you're not being charged for the gross $14.50 an hour out of your because they're splitting it up. And Bobby? Yeah, and then Bobby just handed me this pay here, which it'll show out exactly how much is the employee's portion and how much is the county's portion. For example, this employee, I'm going to number so we don't, it's 1027. Their total payroll was $812. The amount that the county paid in Social Security was $50.35. The amount that the employee paid was $50.35. $11.77 in Medicare for both. And then the employee paid $185 in federal taxes, $23.12 in state, and $12.17 in county taxes. So I can give you these two documents,
Does
Linda.
that have a total for 21 so far?
So this is just one payroll.
Oh, okay, that's
This
fine.
is just one payroll, but they can go back and run the payrolls, and then any of the county portion of this amount could be refunded back to her in that. I mean, this is just one payroll.
And you multiply the one payroll by, do we do 25?
They're going to work different amounts of hours, because
Okay.
looking at this transaction report, it was 651, and then it followed up with an addition, at only $1,429. So it's kind of, it's not
Right.
equal each payroll.
Okay.
They're kind of bouncing around. So no, I mean, you really can't
Okay.
just multiply by 26.
That's fine.
I personally feel like maybe we need a little bit more information, so the suggestion that Linda would get with Chad and Debbie just to square things away, and Joel would also be able to look at the State Board of Accounts angle. Is that worth pursuing, that we might table this and come back in January?
Linda needs to know what to put in that certificate for 22. So if it is really our opinion that, just repeat, what were you going to say?
I mean, you could, Pat, that if that certificate is not done, then I can't pay my $14.50 out of there.
Right,
The certificate has to be filed
Right.
this year.
right.
So if you wanted to change to the numbers that were used last year and then pass that one, that should take care of it.
Change to the numbers we used
And
last
if I run
year.
out of money, change it back to the 42. If I run out of money, then I'll come back and say I'm out of money.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure I understand. So what does change it to the 42 mean? That's the amount
That was the amount that was last year was.
that you had set aside for the employees
Yes.
was 42?
That was 28 hours times 26 pays per week. So that was 41,000. I had a copy of it. Hang on.
So if we change it back to the 42, then we know you're not going to have enough at the end of the year.
Right. I mean, it would
We
need
know
to be
for
the
sure.
Well,
42.
they've already taken out, and it totaled to 31,000 up through October. So everything that was taken out to do with payroll, the salary plus the amounts, totaled up to 31,900 something. So
Okay.
I know at 42, with it being paid this year at that amount, it should cover next year, because you're going to need to cover it next year, correct?
Right.
See what I'm saying?
So I
Yes,
think,
but if we do your math, then we're going to need to set it at 45 for 55.
No.
Because that would be the 42,222 plus the 3,230.
I didn't use all of that time because there were days off and things like that. And that was the catch on trying to figure out how much to cover that would cover me for a year at $14.50. So you do $14.50 an hour minus the days that they don't work in the time that, they're off sick or whatever, vacation they take off, which they get vacations even though I don't pay them. That 41 should cover it based on what was done.
okay. So you feel like that number covers everything, including the withholdings. And then if you need additional funds for the digitization project, you would come and talk to us about that during the year.
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead, Chad.
I'm sorry, but I don't feel comfortable with that because we should estimate based on Linda's own numbers the amount, and then if she doesn't end up spending it, it's just going to stay in her fund. It's not like if she'll lose it or it'll go away. So we should budget just like we do everyone else. If she's saying the employee works 28 hours a week, 52 weeks a year.
That's an average. That's not.
I understand, but that's what I'm saying. If that's the average that they work, I think that's what we should budget. Because I don't want to get us into the difficulties we've had in the past where we've under-budgeted things, knowing we've under-budgeted.
That 42 is based on 28 hours a week.
Yeah.
It's based on that. And we were still ahead, 10,000. And you're not going to spend 10,000 in the next month, 2 months. Because that was through November, that amount was.
So to try to help circle this in, I'm going to make a motion that we treat Linda's part-time employees just like every other perpetuation fund employees, and that all the withholding taxes that are paid by the county come out of that same perpetuation fund. And Linda can then decide exactly what dollar figure she wants to put in that certificate, with the understanding that if she runs out of money there, then that's the most she can spend on those employees. Because
Does that certificate, I'm sorry, Chad. Does that certificate include a dollar amount and a purpose for that dollar amount?
Yes.
Okay.
So Chad made a motion. Linda, can you explain to me how Chad's motion is going to impact your office specifically?
How it's going to,
Like, how does Chad's motion impact your department's finances?
well,
What will be the result of it?
when I certify this, that means I'm saying I have enough money to run my office without this amount, whatever that amount is. Now, I don't like certifying, put my name to something that may not be there. If $42,224 covered 28 hours, we still have $10,000 left till the end of the year. I don't see why that wouldn't cover it, and plus it keeps me that at least I tried to have enough money in that fund to cover everything. And I should have. But, I have to base this certificate on what I think my office can do.
We have a motion. Did we have a second yet?
we haven't yet, but I want to.
Okay, that's fine.
If you stick at the 42,224, you're not going to get to 56 hours. You're going to get to 41 and a half hours, or 51 and a half hours is what you'll have per week because of paying the additional 7.65% in withholding taxes. So the employees will not be able to work. This is how the employees will not be able to work 28 hours a week every week.
No, they don't.
Because,
And they
okay.
don't.
So my motion does not really affect your department at all. It just says that we stick to what we talked about in the budget, and we treat you like every other department, and you pay the withholdings out of your perpetuation fund. And then you set the amount that you want to put in there because you make that decision, and then you can work your employees exactly how you want to within the parameters that you set on the budget that you set.
Right, that's what I did last year.
Okay.
And I still have money left over.
But Chad, would you, and you may not want to do this, which is fine, but do you want your motion to include anything about how we handle 21?
Sure, I can add back if the State Board of Accounts says we need to reimburse her, then I will make an amendment to my motion that we reimburse her all of the withholdings that the county pays for Social Security and Medicare wages based on these percentages that I've mentioned, and that can be figured by the auditor's office, which, depending on the payroll, should be somewhere around that $3,000 mark.
Okay. Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion or questions?
Does that motion, I mean, I'm just trying to understand, there's a lot of moving parts here. The motion seems to address all your issues.
I'll make it work.
Huh?
I'll make it work.
Okay.
She's, okay. For 22 to put in her certificate. And I don't think we have to be part of that unless you need it, Debbie.
No, I didn't know if you guys were making a motion on it, because I just need to.
Oh,
We're not accepting the certificate, we're just making a motion. The motion was. I'll repeat my motion so we make sure we all understand it. That Linda pays the withholding taxes for Social Security and Medicare out of her perpetuation fund, just like is done with the rest of the county perpetuation fund employees. And I amended the motion to say that since it was not on the certificate for this year, that we reimbursed her amount. So I guess my question is, we'll have to check the certificate to see if you put withholding taxes on there. But we reimburse her the funds that the State Board of Accounts says that she could not pay out of that account this year. So that was the motion I made. Is that what you got? Okay.
we have a motion and a second. Well, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. See if Clay was able to follow all that remotely.
You're muted. Can you? Oh, I read his lips. He says, I said aye. I still can't hear him. But
Okay, he's giving the thumbs up.
Give me a thumbs up.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Do you meet again this year?
No.
So we need to approve her certificate. So I mean, I hate to do this, but can you read it since we've not seen it? I hate to approve anything I've not read.
She has the 2 copies.
Okay.
According to your motion, the amount is $42,224. This is off of last year's. And then we need to add the salary and withholding. Is that sufficient, Joel? Yeah, I think it's sufficient. Okay. Salary and withholding and salary of 2 part-time deputies, $21,112 for each, for a total of $42,224.
All right, you're down on item number 5 now.
Maybe I have an old copy, but this says $36,000.
That was for next year.
She's now updating it. She said she would update it to say, I hereby request that the council use $42,224 from the fund for calendar year 2022 to be used for salary and withholdings of 2 part-time deputy recorders. Is that what you said?
So based on that statement, I would make a motion that we approve this certificate with the changes of the $42,224 for wages and withholding taxes added to that line 5.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I will get that corrected and then have it notarized by Ann. It needs to be notarized.
Okay.
Well, it won't be Ann. She's not here today or tomorrow. She already told me. So
Okay.
I can get it notarized up in the assessor's office.
Okay.
And then get it to Debbie. There's 2 copies. I'll get both of them to state.
Very good. Thank you so much, Linda.
Susan, we need to jump back to the salary ordinances.
Sure, go ahead.
So I think what we have to do here is approve the changes to the salary ordinances for 2022 for the county employees. These were the meetings that we held, multiple meetings to discuss, review.
You're not making a motion on changes, you're
Approving.
22 salary ordinances.
Yeah, so these,
Different than the budget, the salary ordinances are different, so you're just really approving 2022 salary ordinances.
How could I have skipped that after all the time that we spent working on it?
so, yeah, I think we've gone through these several times, but I think it actually did fall under job classification. I apologize, I didn't add that to my list. So I think I will make a motion that we approve the salary ordinances as presented.
I would second that.
A motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Well, hang on a second. Clay,
Yes.
we can't hear you at all. Is it okay if you call my phone and I put it on speaker? Clay, can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up. Call me up.
I think that what Clay wanted to mention, and he can correct me if this isn't right, he was going to abstain from voting because he has had surgery and won't be able to promptly sign these for Debbie. And he didn't want to delay the signature, so he was going to abstain from voting. Is he giving a thumbs up? Okay, great. Okay. Motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the 2022 salary ordinance 2021-12-16-006 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And the motion carries. Okay, Kinnan, you have an insurance update, ARP update, and highway update.
I think for brevity's sake, just read over it. Ask me if you have any questions. I will send a copy of this to Clay so that he would be informed as well. I met with Joe yesterday. They're wrapping things up. The salt barns, I would call them, that you see if you drive past the highway department on 50 North have been completed. When I spoke to him yesterday, they were actually using a loader to put sand in one, and a large order of salt. It will be forthcoming in the near future to fill up the other one. So we actually have facilities to keep them out of the snow, the rain, the ice, so that they'll be better able to load them onto the salt trucks and the snow plows this winter, because I assume we'll get some snow. I mentioned on here that he had 2 employees retire or resign, or he's short 2. We approved 2, so he's got 4 in 2022 to hire, the 2 short that left and the 2 new employees. That will get him closer to the number of actual snow plows, so we can have CDL licensed drivers doing those if we have a blizzard, which we're past due, I suppose. Cumulative bridge fund, I've alluded to in the past. We need to kind of look at that in 2022. It does affect the general fund, but we are by far the lowest in East Central Indiana as far as our cumulative bridge. He was very limited as to bridge repairs and culverts that he could repair or replace in 2021. So just make a note of that. They're very pleased with the new paving machine that was approved that he bought. Dale Stearns is taking care of straightening out the road that will lead to the new correctional facility that hopefully will be open on February 10th. It's looking good. It's a straight shot instead of having to make a dogleg turn to the left and right. We spoke a little bit about the Bellflower ordinances, and that was brought up earlier through Joel and through Steve. Health Department, Angela's here if she'd like to give a report. She's good. A lot of information on the Health Department webpage. I know they're still doing vaccinations and everything with the schools and the public. I believe the facility out by the old clinic near the hospital is still doing tests. For those who are interested, make an appointment and things will go faster because you can answer some of the questions online. Insurance update we just got this afternoon. Last month was better than the 3 previous months. We had some very large claim months, the 3 previous months. The 143,000 and change last month was the lowest since the first month in June. So we're at 102% of expected, which is like 22,000 above expected. That's nothing to be sweating over with as large of an account as we have. So because of a good month, we're closer to expected than we were the last 3 months. And we budgeted 110. So we're in good shape right now, but we still hope that we have good months and not a whole string of bad months, but we did put a buffer in there in the 22 budget. So far, so good. ARP, I'm going to let you read this. Our committee has met 4 times, and the last one was last Wednesday. We've put $1 million back for digitizing and upgrading to become maybe 2022 instead of 1984 to our records in the county. There is $1 million set aside for sewer, that $10 million project that apparently the county's paying 10% in the state of Indiana because it's going to improve wastewater coming from GEO as well as our new facility, but the old one was deteriorating and would not accept, they did not want to risk the extra flow of GEO and the new correctional facility. So our 10% of an estimated $10 million project is $1 million, so ARP would qualify for that under infrastructure. We've set aside 10% as recommended by AIC and NACO for administrative oversight, the legal support, the advice, guidance from Baker Tilly and ARA. We had Eric Fry from ARA spoke to us last Wednesday as to what ARA could do to help us and guide us in certain programs, especially going after federal monies that have been dispersed by Congress to the different federal agencies such as Department of Agriculture, HUD, et cetera, how they could facilitate that $1 million. They recommended 10% of the amount set aside for administrative overhead. That would pay for all those categories that I mentioned, including Baker Tilly, ARA, legal advice, federal and state audits. It's federal money, so there, again, are lots of hoops and requirements. The U.S. Treasury is supposed to come up with their final guidelines at the end of January. We'll see what they do. We're hoping for $2 million plus in loss of revenues, and those monies can be much more flexible than the other monies that we've alluded to. There's a lot of guidelines and requirements under the rest, but if indeed we have $2 million plus under loss of revenues in 2020, there's a lot of flexibility on how that $2 million can be spent. There's a bill in front that moved from Senate to the House that's been in a holding pattern there for 2 months, House Bill 5735, that would grant us and other counties and states a great deal more flexibility given the interim guidelines that we have to date from the U.S. Treasury. We're also awaiting the specifics of the recently passed infrastructure bill from the feds. Right now, we do not know if it's going to go through application, through grants directly to the states and or counties like ARP has. And no one yet has given us a lot of information how those monies will flow on the infrastructure bill. There's an expectation, I think, from the committee, and Bobby can correct me if I'm wrong, that we will open up sometime in early 2022 for online recommendations and suggestions from the public. But I will say, as of today, about $3 million of this 4.65 has been discussed, but it's probably, I would say, is in a fluid mode, except for the $1 million that is we have to do with the sewer line from the jail and GEO. The state has said they will do 90%, and approximately $1 million would be in ARP. It's the only place we have that kind of monies. And she can correct me if I'm wrong in anything I said or if I said too much.
The only thing I'll correct is the two things, there's two things in that resolution that was approved was, yes, the $1 million sewer line and appropriating the $1 million for the legal fee.
Right.
Everything else is still
Fluid.
Yeah.
That's more of a brainstorming. The next meeting is on January the 12th, whatever the second Wednesday is.
Wednesday of January.
January 12th, because I did look it up and it's in your handout. And it's open to the public, 2 p.m. in here? So if you want feedback. So really $2 million has been actually in writing as part of the plan, because there was a plan that Joel wrote. Right. So you've heard the brainstorming and the actual $2 million that is solidified. Any questions?
It's a great report, Kenan. I personally am very excited. I know we've talked about this for years, but the possibility of the county having a grant writer, I just think there's so much grant money available right now. The return on investment would likely be really fruitful for the county. So I'm excited to see that might be built into the ARP funds.
That suggestion came from Bill Upchurch, our treasurer, our county treasurer, and I think the other members of this committee that's been set up was very excited about that as well. What the monies we were talking about is for year one, because the grant writer can write the administrative overhead in after they get established in years, and then probably be money ahead after the second year. So we're talking about seed money for year one, and they should be able to write grants that will pay for that position after that.
So it sounds like a really good use of money.
Thank you, Kenan, for those updates. Before we adjourn, is there any other business from the council?
President Hoon, I know that we've been made aware that the Newcastle City Council had a resolution that passed last week. Do we plan to address that?
I was not going to unless someone from the city council or Mayor York would like to speak to that. But if you would like to, that's also fine.
I know that they're planning to meet Monday to continue discussing it, even though they've passed it. So I don't know that comment is necessary at this time because it sounds like things are fluid. And I think it would be nice to hear from them directly.
Is there anyone from the city council online that you have noticed? Okay. Any other business from the council? Is there anyone in attendance today that wanted to speak with us this evening? I'm sorry. Were those, I received your report and looked at it, that was for the emergency shutdown? And so were those ARP money requests, ARA? Okay.
It's essential workers, which
Essential
has been
worker or hazard pay.
that has been discussed, and it was in the report, and I summarized the report. I didn't read everything on it, so yes, that is something being considered and discussed because it does fall under essential worker pay.
So, yeah, one of the topics of conversation in our ARA meetings is hazard pay. So it's definitely not something that's been forgotten. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay, any other comments? If I know Clay wanted to make a closing comment tonight, could you help him?
Well, he's unmuted. Clay, go ahead and, can't hear you. Can you call in to either my phone or Susan's phone? And I'll put you on speaker. Calling you, Susan, or? Oh, he's calling me. Hello?
Okay. Gotcha.
He needs to mute his computer.
Mute your computer. Well, he is muted.
Mute your laptop.
Or just, if you want to disconnect, oh, he disconnected from me.
The speaker's not on yours, is it?
No, shouldn't be. Yeah, it's picking up. Yeah. I'm gonna mute him and let me try this. Technology, don't we just love it? Yeah. Oh, not, he's got to silence his computer, so shut his laptop or whatever. Hey, Clay, shut your laptop off and just call me on my phone. Disconnect from Zoom and just call me on my phone. Okay, now he's disconnected. Okay, there we go, Clay.
Okay, so everybody can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
Oh, yeah, it's just, it's technology.
So, anyways, thank you, President Hoon, for this time, this opportunity. So, I know everybody's ready to go, so I will get straight to the point. I originally had planned to do this, obviously, in person, but with the eye surgery and things, I didn't know how my recovery was going to go. Doing pretty good today, so, but anyways, went ahead and scheduled the Zoom meeting for this. I am announcing my resignation from the Henry County Council as of midnight on December 31st of this year. And to get straight to the point, I had written out a statement because I'm sure everybody's wondering why. And this is the best explanation. I think it really sums up everything. And I will begin to read now. It has been an absolute pleasure or privilege to serve the last 9 years on this council. The trust that voters put into my perspective on county government is an honor. As I look forward or toward a new year that brings with it many unknown circumstances, I confess that God has so transformed my thinking that I must let go and leave behind certain things that I may attain what lay in my path ahead. I came across this journal entry of mine that really sums up what I feel right now. It's actually dated February 8th of 2017. I feel that I'm in perfect will of God as far as what I'm doing. However, I need God to tell me how I keep my relationship with Him at the center. I must express love. God is love. Everything I do should be motivated by love for God and mankind. In politics, it is, at times, so easy not to love some people. In business, it is so easy to see people as a resource for money. In all of it, it is easy to see people as ego boosters. God, please help me see people as you do. Show me how love can be my constant motivator. Show me what to strip away in my life. I have nothing worth keeping if I lose my relationship with you. What good am I if I lose my opportunities to minister to my family? And that is the end of my statement. I appreciate you guys and carry on, and may God bless you in your endeavors, because if you do well, we all do well. And with that, I make a motion to close the meeting.
I'll second and thank him for his words.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.